They opened the tomb, and within hours he was dead. The year was 1923. Lord Carnarvon, the man who funded the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb, died suddenly after a mosquito bite became infected. At that exact moment, all the lights in Cairo went out. Thousands of miles away in London, his dog let out a blood-curdling howl and dropped dead. Coincidence, or the curse of the Pharaoh? Ancient Egypt wasn't just about golden pyramids and majestic sphinxes. Beneath the surface of this civilization, one of the oldest and most advanced in human history, was a world of rituals, beliefs, and traditions so strange they would chill the bones of even the most fearless explorer. Let's begin with death, because to the Egyptians, death was only the beginning. When someone died, the Egyptians believed their soul had to journey through the underworld Duat, a dangerous maze filled with demons, traps, and gods who would test your heart, quite literally. If you passed, eternal paradise awaited. But if you failed, your soul was devoured, completely erased from existence by a monster named Amit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. To prepare for this journey, the dead had to be perfectly preserved, hence the art of mummification. But what you might not know is just how creepy it really was. First, they pulled out the brain using a hook through the nose, because they believed the brain was useless. Yes, the heart was seen as the seat of intelligence. Then came the removal of organs. The liver, stomach, lungs, and intestines were embalmed and placed in canopic jars, each guarded by a protective god. But the heart? That stayed, because it would be weighed against a feather in the afterlife. If your heart was heavier than the feather, meaning you were full of sin, you were done for. And the process didn't stop there. The body was soaked in natron, a salt compound that dried it out. It would take 70 days before the wrapping even began, layer upon layer of linen, with amulets slipped in between to guard the soul. And sometimes a false penis or fake eyes were added, so the body would appear whole and recognizable to the gods. But here's where it gets even darker. Mummification wasn't just for the dead. Sometimes the living were buried alive as sacrifices. Pharaohs didn't go alone into the afterlife. In earlier dynasties, their servants, guards, and even pets were sometimes drugged or killed and placed into tombs so they could serve their master in the next world. Imagine being a young servant, knowing your fate was sealed the day your ruler died. And then there's the practice of ritual animal mummification. Egyptians believed animals could carry messages to the gods, especially cats, ibises, crocodiles, and falcons. But these weren't just honored pets. Archaeologists have discovered entire underground cemeteries filled with millions of mummified animals. Many were bred just to be killed, stuffed, wrapped, and sold to worshippers at temples. One X-ray even showed an empty cat mummy. It wasn't a real animal, just rags and bones, sold as sacred but made to deceive. Now let's talk about hair. Egyptian priests shaved their heads completely, not just for hygiene, but to show purity. And noble women would sometimes wear wigs made from the hair of their slaves. These wigs were perfumed, decorated with gold, and sometimes woven with human teeth. But the creepiest tradition of all? It might be the opening of the mouth ceremony. Before burial, a high priest would touch the dead body's face with special tools, a ritual meant to restore the senses so the soul could eat, see, speak, and breathe in the afterlife. But this wasn't just symbolic. Some sources describe the use of a calf's leg pressed against the dead person's mouth, while priests chanted and offered food and beer. They believed this act would literally awaken the soul. A dead body, reanimated, even if just for a moment. So next time you see an Egyptian artifact behind museum glass, remember, it may not be resting in peace, it may be waiting, watching, listening. And as for the curse, when King Tut's tomb was opened, 11 people connected to the dig died under mysterious circumstances. Scientists call it coincidence. But in a land where death was only the beginning, some say the gods never forget.